to DevCon 2016. Please welcome Luminis founder and chief executive, Bossenbroek.
Wisselend wat, er komen nog wat mensen binnen. Het is een beetje wisselend wat de taal vandaag zal zijn. Het is ergens tussen Nederlands en Engels. Dus ik heb beloofd, I'm going to do it in English. Parts will be an introduction in Dutch. So excuse me for that. We zijn 14 jaar bezig met Luminis en The Art of Software Engineering was eigenlijk de originele naam van het bedrijf. En wat mij betreft een beetje hobby, vak, wat verworden is tot een, denk ik, boodschap in de markt van hoe neem je eigenlijk en waarom neem je je vak eigenlijk serieus. Dus ik hoorde net al opmerkingen van lange introductie en lange keynotes. Dat gaat het niet worden. Ik wil ook een verhaaltje vertellen nog. Dus jammer. Maar ik ben eens even, wie is hier vandaag voor het eerst? Wie was er vorig jaar niet bij? Niet bij. Dus allemaal nieuwe. Awesome. Welkom. Welkom. Wat ook aan de zijkant staat over delen. Een vraag die vorig jaar een paar keer gesteld was van waarom doen jullie dit eigenlijk? Nou, eigenlijk daarom. Dit gaat allemaal over delen en over samen. En ik wil eigenlijk het punt maken dat in de Nederlandse markt iets heel raars aan de hand is met betrekking tot de employability en de positie van IT'ers. En dat is niet iets waar ik absoluut trots op ben, maar waar wel heel veel onbegrip in de markt uit blijkt. Having said that, the rest I'll do in English. I have a couple of small things to announce. One is in the sessions, part of sharing is actually giving feedback to the speakers. So I would love to ask you if you would give feedback to the speakers by posting one of these cards in the baskets outside every session. To be able to share, it's good to know one another. So you're sitting pretty close to each other. Would appreciate it if you would introduce yourself to your neighbor next to you, at least if it's not someone you know. Because you do yourself a favor by at least going back today, having exchanged at least 3 business cards or 3 email addresses of people you didn't know before. So please take a minute and introduce yourself to your neighbor. Well, one of the things we don't have in the program is actually a closure, sort of end of the program. So what I'd like to start with first is actually say a thank you to everyone who's organized it, to Bert and Simone and Denise and Brenda and Bert and everyone. So please give a big hand to those guys and girls because they really did an awesome job. Thank you. And for me it's a no-brainer, but like I said last year, this is not a recruitment event. So probably everyone who's walking around here with a suit and a tie, A, doesn't work for Luminis, B, much more, they'll probably be here for recruitment purposes. So this is not our intent, and as far as I'm concerned, you just shy them away because this is not part of this part of sharing and being part of the same community about software engineering. So, mind you, this is not a recruitment event. Which brings me actually to the thing I would like to talk about, which is the art of software engineering. And on average, if you talk about art, there's definitely something artistic in this, and I think it's fair to say that software engineering does have a creative quality to it. And we try to express it by using the word art, but there's also a very hard business sense to the art of software engineering, or software engineering as a profession. And I'll try to cross that bridge a couple of times in the introduction. Because if you talk about art, you talk about talent. And obviously you can talk about Picasso and Dali and Rembrandt, what have you, but I'd like to refer to art in sports and talent. I mean, last week Kobe Bryant on the left, you're right, stopped and played his last game, scored 60 points. On the right-hand side is the upcoming star, Steph Curry. And it's very interesting if you look at their performance. I mean, one of the things you can acknowledge and see when you look at them is actually before they become real artists and real stars, they master the discipline. These are training animals. So they go to work day in, day night, fly across the USA just to play their game. And it's the thing that I find lacking with a lot of software engineers, because we believe that by finishing some sort of education, we are there. We are considered to be software engineering professionals. I'll try to debunk part of that myth. So last 2 or 3 weeks, I spent the papers and just try to find out what's happening in the IT market. Well, here's an interesting one. Upcoming is a shortage of, depending on the estimations, between 15 and 30,000 IT'ers in Holland, whereas there are over 7,000, and the latest is, I think, over 10,000 unemployed IT people in Holland. This makes it very strange, doesn't it? A big shortage in IT, and if you're over 45, you're considered to be a loser, at least not applicable in the market anymore. So this 7700 does scare me. Stronger even. If you look at the next one, even the headhunters are starting to complain. I mean, everyone knows this. You get these emails in your email box that they have some other job, obviously mostly a standard email, and they hopefully spelled your name right, and then you get this offer for a better employment with a higher salary. Nowhere in these processes anyone mentions the craft of IT and the craft of software development. This makes you wonder, because I think this only increases the problem in the market, and it results in a lack of respect and value of IT. And the other is, finally, we seem to have broken this negative spiral of price fighting for software developers. So for the first time in 2015, actually, if you look not only at the tariffs, but also at the valuation by companies on the field of IT, they consider IT becoming really more valuable. So apparently, there's something changing in the market. So everyone's acknowledging the fact that we need software developers. Having said that, we're not only having a problem with 45 plus people, we also hate women. So actually, from the population we have, half we disqualify just because they're women. This is a research done last December, quite extensively on GitHub. And actually, once committers told them they were female, actually the level of acceptance dropped seriously. So I think we need to change the way we look at our profession. I think we need to sort of start acknowledging that software development is a profession with an artistic, creative quality. And I think we need to acknowledge the fact that there's a huge shortage in the market coming up, and that will evolve and create a number of undesired effects. So the last November, I think, December, a report came out about on digital craftsmanship, and that's a bit scaled. I'll not bother you with all the details. It's just one thing that I found interesting. They conclude, actually, if you look at the timeline, that there's a huge change in the way we look at IT. The influx of new students in IT faculties is decreasing seriously. And on the other hand, in the outflux, we have a problem that ICT competencies are considered more and more necessary for the entire industry. So of the people that actually graduate from IT education, more and more they are moving away from software development and into all kinds of support functions in enterprises. That's scary. So we get less and less students. On the other hand, those that graduate actually don't meddle anymore in software development or software-intensive professions. They go into support. They go into management and process-oriented roles. So my expectation is the problem will only increase. So the great thing is this is obviously good for salaries and salary negotiations, but it's the worst you can think of if you look at our profession. Which brings me to sort of debunking the myth on artistry. This is a great research done in NASA. It's done now for 6 times. And it's a very simple test. They give you 30 lines of code, or pseudocode, depending on your background. And they give you 1 line of output with the correct output and an outline of the wrong output. And there are a number of errors in it. And this actually depicts the time it takes professional software developers to solve the problem in that code. So this is 30 lines of code. Now, mind you, if you look at this, these are professionals. If you compare this to sports, for instance, the 100-meter dash, on average, an adult, when compared to the world champion, is a factor 2 or 3 slower. This is an order of magnitude. I mean, let this sink in. This is what we call professionals. I mean, just imagine the difference between someone who solved this in 1 minute and someone who took over an hour. And you have to work with someone like that. I bet everyone had this experience at some point in time. And they sit down and have the same profession, they have the same job title. And what on average the reaction is, yeah, but it has to do with experience. Well, let me kill that one too, but because here's the years of experience put against the time it took to solve the problem. Let's face it, there's no strong relation there. Although deeper statistics behind this research show that there is a relation between the number of programming languages you know and the proficiency of solving the problems. And there is a relation between the familiarity with the application domain and the proficiency to solve problems. But these aren't strong relations. So we could say that there's a very strange thing going on in software development communities worldwide. It's just something that you never obviously talk about. Here's another one. There's a very strong relation with the conceptual capabilities of a person and the quality of their code. So the impact of the personal signature in code is very big. So what this here says, it depicts the relation between syntactic complexity, so the algorithmic complexity of the problem at hand, and the number of changes in the first couple of months after delivery, the first implementation. And what it shows is actually that there are those that actually can master complexity in an design implementation that actually is resilient and robust enough to withstand change. And there are those actually that don't get it. They deliver an implementation, and it takes a lot of change actually to address the problem at hand. So this is a very interesting thing. Because if we talk about software development, on average, if we talk about salaries or jobs, the first thing we ask someone is, how many years do you have experience? Assuming that more experience actually helps you get better, well, it doesn't. Stronger even, the things that actually could help you aren't covered in these talks, nor in a lot of self-reflections engineers do. I've been part of it in different roles in software development processes for close to 30 years now. And it's very hard to put the point with persons themselves if they talk about personal productivity and performance and quality. So I find these figures not exactly well, easy to swallow at least, because they show where we are with our current profession. And obviously, there are those that have been around in the market for a longer time, and they all have this panacea, a silver bullet to solve this problem. One is hero worshipping. We all know them. These are the guys that actually work day and night, and you shouldn't disturb them, because if you disturb them, it seriously deteriorates their performance, and they are worshipped. And every time there's a problem in the board, they address these guys and ask them what the solution should be. So this builds a sort of adhocracy, which really has the individual stand on a stage, but it is very bad for the collective performance. And if we want to solve the previous statistics, we have to be able to address the collective in some shape or form. And talk about collective, there are those that believe in the theory about corporate learning and standardizing everything, sort of the industrial thinkers. They standardize the processes, they tell you how to do retrospectives and evaluations, they define the documentation standards, and then they hope for the best. And actually what it does, it produces more heroes. Because what actually it does is the actual creative people step away from the standards. So if we talk about the roots of Agile and the roots of personal performance, it finds its roots in these 2 or 3 anti-patterns. And one of the things you see in Holland, and I think it's gradually also moving into the rest of Europe, is software engineering as a marketplace. So you have this huge appetite for software developers, and what you do is actually you create a demand, and you try to have people write in and underwrite all kinds of assignments and hope for the best. It's once again driving for the individual and not for the collective. So this is a serious challenge for where we are. So if I throw my mind back at the art of software engineering, well, we do have a number of interesting statistics to fight against, and the market isn't actually helping us. So I think we need to have a major shift in perspective. On the one hand, if you talk about these things, you get a couple of things thrown at you. There's Barry Beam and personal productivity and software productivity. And I don't know whether you know Barry Beam's seminal book on Kokomo and productivity. Actually, it says that the most important aspect of productivity is personnel capabilities. And then he rambles on and on and on about structures and procedures and processes and what have you. And this book is, I think, late 80s, and it was a second edition in early 2000s. And they said actually that the impact of personal capability went from over 4 to just under 4, so like 3.8. And this is where it stops. And the other one, obviously, I don't know whether you know him, is Putnam, who says, okay, we have this thing called process productivity. So for over 30 years, we have already found out there's something else than the individual performance to really drive software development forward. And if you look at it from a mechanistic or industrial point of view, it has shown that doesn't work as well. Now, here's the world with agile, lean development, and all other processes that takes away part of the ownership of software development. And after me, Chris Moon will get on stage, and Chris will talk about ownership and commitment as a sort of way of life, as a personal attitude. I think we're getting into a completely different economy. And if I talk about sharing economy, I talk about things like open innovation and open source and collaborative environments and collaborative business. 5 minutes. Speeding up a bit. So actually, what keeps people away from sharing? Why are we the only one who organize these types of conferences? Why are we trying to keep away recruitment and hiring people? It's actually to foster an economy and to foster an environment where sharing and collaboration is considered to be the standard. And if you look at a lot of statistics, because there are a lot of statistics out there on sharing in the software space, the interesting is actually the blue part of the circle. The biggest reasons why organizations and people don't share on an equal basis, which means I don't use things, but I also give back, has to do with trust. I'm afraid my things are stolen. I don't know whether the organization can be trusted. I don't know whether there's my reputation in the network. So it's a very principal reason why this doesn't work at the moment. So if I talk about the art of software engineering, these things we need to address. You need to be aware of the fact that it's not all perfect, and we aren't all artists. And to become an artist, you have to master the discipline. So my takeaway on the art of software engineering, because I want to stay from all kinds of theory in a very long session, by the way, but is to become an artist, you first have to master the discipline. So that's a lot of work. I'll stay away from all the tech talk and all the hype talk and sort of repackaging things in new patterns again, but mastery is a very important part. The other thing is, to share, you need to resonate. In order to be able to share with the community or to share with other people, you have to share principles. You have to align visions, which we refer to as to resonate. So you have to understand why and how you use software or open source software from specific projects or communities. You have to be consciously aware of why and how you commit yourself to a given open source project. So having said that, I think software, or the art of software engineering, is about ownership and commitment. Getting back to Kobe Bryant and Steph Curry, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to stand out, if you really want to be an artist, if you really want to attain this level of the art of software engineering, this is about ownership and commitment. It's about being active here and being able to reach out and to resonate with people you work with. And there's a completely different talk, which obviously I can't help myself but mention, which it's also about elegance and beauty. I mean, read on the great civil architects about the quality of buildings and development. Elegance and beauty are hardwired into the human brain. So there's nothing better than actually looking at a beautiful piece of code, apart from the correctness and the completeness of it all. Great in time. Having said that, this is about sharing. Today is about sharing. Today is about sharing this idea about artistry and creativity, the art of software engineering, the human factor. So, yes, we sponsor this, but no, this is not intended to be a business thing. This is to be a person-to-person thing. Which brings me, Chris, would you mind coming up to the stage? Shouldn't run. Hi, how are you? Hi. Meet Chris Moon.
Thank you.
So what's the relation to software development?
You.
Yeah. And a dinner last night with too much wine.
And the fact that whatever way you look at it, in our lives, it is there.
Yeah. You've been speaking at loads of conferences.
Yep.
I saw a couple in the IT arena.
Yep.
But what's then the overlap with you as a person?
For me, I've been very, very fortunate to live through a whole load of things that I am told categorically by the experts should have killed me. So from that, I've decided we should be very careful who we listen to. Second thing is, I've learned a lot about life, and I'm very privileged to have had some very extreme experiences. And what is useful about life and death experiences is the wisdom is straightforward, and any pretense we might have as human beings is stripped away. And my passion is for the process of achievement. I have survived because I have always taken ownership. Life is about taking ownership. And also, in whatever we do, I believe we have to be 100% professional. That is the only reason that I survived.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Yeah, because you're getting back to your arm, and what caused that?
Yes, I used to clear landmines. I was pretty good at it. I found the very thing we were looking for.
Yeah. I promised
it's all
not
down
to laugh
to how
about
you
this.
look at it, isn't it?
Yeah. So, because obviously the rest of the day will be about technology. And we thought that it would be good to stress the other point about ownership and commitment. If you really think the art of software engineering is important, you need to be able to stand up. And you have to stand up for your own profession and stand up for yourself. So, and with that, I want to give over the clicker to you. I'll try to start PowerPoint. It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
And please give a hand to Chris Moon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.